up this early?
Well, but as I was coming, I saw an accident on the road, and I could tell that it's going to be a tough road, on Langata Road.
Okay, there you have it. You have your traffic update. But it's unfortunate that there was an accident. We also have Maria Beneka. She is a council member of the Law Society of Kenya and the Laikipia County First Lady. But here in her capacity as a council member of the Law Society of Kenya, happy to have you as well, Maria. Is it your first time on NTV?
I believe it is.
It is, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, we're very happy to host you. Yeah. Steve Ogola is more familiar, I guess, because he's been on NTV a number of times, on NTV Today, on AM Live, and on Sidebar. Is it your first time on AM Live, Steve?
I've been here before.
You've been here before?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. And I'm Olive Burrows, filling in for Dibal Ainia, who will be back next week. So I'll start with asking you guys, what do you think of President Uhuru Kenyatta's statement yesterday, that there simply is not enough money to increase the allocation to the county? Steve, I'll start with you.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable because the president does not have the mandate to determine what goes to the counties. I mean, let's say it as it is. That's the functional mandate of the Commission on Revenue Allocation. And once the Commission on Revenue Allocation makes the determination, it has to have a binding effect. And what the Commission on Revenue Allocation has granted the government, it's a very little amount. 335 billion is lesser than some of the core ministries, the funding of some of the core ministries. The difference, because governors are, Parliament passed about 310 billion, and governors are requiring 327 billion, the difference is less than 17 billion. I don't think the government will grind to a halt if the additional funds are disbursed. But even if it did, the president does not have the single mandate of determining what revenue goes to the counties. He can't, in short. But again, as usual, politics is played according to what is convenient at the time, not necessarily what the law prescribes.
All right, but do you think the senators, the majority in Senate, will now change their tune, given President Uhuru Kenyatta's remarks, Maria?
I think it behoves the senators to actually take up their mandate with regards to the law, because if you look at all the arms of the state, everybody has a responsibility to act in accordance with their mandate as set out in the Constitution or any given law. Now, when you look at revenue allocation and now this dance between the National Assembly and the Senate and eventually the casualty, which is devolution, you're left to wonder really what's going on, because you remember that the governors actually marched just the other day.
Yes. And
they went to court, and the matter is before court. Actually, Steve is representing the Law Society as an interested party in that matter. And the court gave directions that parties should actually seek to mediate so that we can get a solution to this problem. So when you have a tough stance by any side, it does not help Mwananchi or Wanjiko at the end of the day, because what is happening is the COG is advising that services are grinding to a halt at the county level. The national government says we don't have money. The National Assembly goes on to publish the revenue bill yesterday in the paper.
Yes.
So that you're seeing, for me, a casualty when it comes to also the law. When you look at the judiciary seized of the matter. We were expecting a direction from the judiciary, which was that you go back and speak, let the parties speak to one another. So I think the senators here have an opportunity to show that they understand the law and they are the guardians of devolution, because at the end of the day, the Constitution is very clear about power and its devolvement, because if you look at the values and the principles of the Constitution, they're very clear that power goes down to the people. And how does it go down to the people? Through devolution. So Senate must take a stand and protect devolution at this point.
Okay, based on the stories we ran, you get the sense that all the parties have already drawn the line in the sand. Ambassador Wensha, what do you think it'll take to get the ball rolling on dialogue?
Thank you, Oliver. I think the legal mind has spoken. I was going to be very cautious in speaking because the matter is in court, but I've taken the advice of the lawyers here. I think what we are witnessing in the country the wrangle between the Senate and of course, the lower house is not playing out well for the people of Kenya. Chapter 11 of our constitution establishes the devolution. But if you look at the spirit of our constitution, as Steve has said, and I think this is what also Maria said, it clearly delineates and assigns responsibility to various organs of the state. And I think unless we stay within our mandate, it makes it very difficult for Mwananchi to know what is happening and how to navigate in such a very murky territory. I think Steve said it very clearly at the beginning that who is responsible for revenue allocation is very clear. And because of that, I think we're still operating in the old mindset when the executive allocated resources, but that we've migrated from there. We're now in that new dispensation. And I think unless we start to allow the constitution take root and nurture it, we are really drifting into a very dangerous state. And I'm not even sure that, the mess between the two houses should have been thrown to the judiciary. And you can see the Chief Justice was in a very hard situation, because then he says, look, why are you before me really? Can't you go and sort it out? And while this one hopes would have been done, but the question you ask, they have drawn red lines. And so we must go back to the judiciary. So I think then we should advisedly stay away from commenting if we want to respect our constitution. First of all, in terms of who shares revenue, but the matter is before court, let's stay away.
All right. We're joined by Alamin Kimathi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to have you. I hope you didn't encounter any traffic this morning.
No, it was smooth sailing. I had to go to the mosque first.
Good. We're getting traffic updates from our guests this morning. So I want us to move on to the question of leadership and integrity, which is what brought us here this morning. Yesterday, Uhuru Yatani took up office. We saw him in Treasury. We heard him say that his focus is on financing the Big Four agenda. A lot of people are saying his appointment came as a surprise. Alamin, did it come as a surprise to you?
Well, nothing surprises me anymore, so it didn't come as a surprise. I think when we talk of, maybe I just make a small opening statement that leadership and integrity, when we look at where we are at the moment, we are facing a crisis of both leadership and a crisis of integrity. We have deficit in integrity across the board, not just within the institutions of state, but across the body politic. We also lack leadership to get us out of so many of these issues, even what I found you discussing here. We are in the bog because really nobody's taking real leadership in these issues. And we will continuously get ourselves stuck, because what it takes to provide the direction or leadership for this nation is not what we are injecting. We are stuck in crises that are made out of a culture of dishonesty that has gripped this nation. We are not honest with ourselves. We are not honest even at the very low levels, and take it up, we will find ourselves in a lot of crises. So when we try to, whatever attempts that we are trying to, to plug these crises, even pulling up surprises on us, it's not going to work until we really come back and get to the bottom of some of these issues. Constitutional crisis, for instance, what we are now discussing about, we're looking at the squabbles, the pulls and pushes that we are seeing, would have fixed this if we didn't look at the Constitution, I mean, we're not looking at fixing the Constitution from very, very selfish interests. You see, now the constitutional debate that we're having is about, you know, we are talking about really, it comes from what do I get out of the Constitution? How do I fix this Constitution to work for me to get on the table, come and eat? Whereas there are real constitutional issues that this country needs to be looking at. For instance, fixing what we didn't fix about the Senate and the National Assembly right from the beginning. We can't now, in this crisis that we are having, and even in the kind of suggestions that we're making to come out, we won't be able to fix it now. Because we polarized the country, we put the country in a situation that we are only looking at. You know, even when we're talking about referendum right now, we actually look at a very binary situation. And we're pitting the country into two camps. You either take it or leave it. But there's no really leadership that is coming in to tell us, look, there is a way of handling issues without really having to be caught up in the political camps that we have divided this country into.
Okay, I was talking to George Morara of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and he told me we keep having the same conversation. Steve, how do we get out of this bog that Alamin makes reference to?
First of all, a comment on Uhuru Atani's elevation, because that's what he seems to consider it to be. Well, there's something nice in terms of he seems to wear power with humility, which is what the Constitution requires. The only problem is that he seems to be subservient to the president and not to the Constitution. Now there's a challenge there. Over celebration of the executive of the presidency is not necessarily consistent with the ideal or the ideals that the Constitution intends to deepen and require of us. He should understand that if he intends to excel, he should not worry how to place the president. If he intends to excel as the CS Treasury, he should worry about faithful commitment to the Constitution and that mandate. Because all that has been articulated very well in the Constitution. I mean, we just need CSs, cabinet secretaries, who are faithful to the Constitution. Of course, if you are faithful to the Constitution, by extension, you'll be loyal to the president, because the president has taken an oath of office to defend and protect the Constitution. So I think it's a good thing. For me, it came as a surprise, you know, because in terms of visibility, it's not the kind of visible CS that he would, maybe he works quietly and the president has confidence in him. That's a good thing. But now let him know that he should not fear, that, and let him not work with caution, that because CS Rotich failed, you know, he may also fail. No. Kenyans are not going to judge him based on the history of that treasury. He will be judged based on his own performance. And if he's done well in the last term and in his previous posting, he certainly will excel if he continues with that mandate of, you know, the way he's already expressed himself. But in terms of the crisis of governance in this country, I mean,
okay, let me just not do the same disservice.
Yes.
Let me ask Maria whether Yatani's appointment came as a surprise to you, because I remember the names that were floated. We had Esther Koimet, we had James Macharia, Aden Mohammed, given their backgrounds in banking. We had Mkisa Kitui floated as one of the candidates. Did it come as a surprise to you?
Well, actually, I think for me, I'd say it was a pleasant surprise.
Okay.
Because one, it was not expected. And it's clear that, you know, the presidency is thinking differently now and not pandering to, you know, the common advice or whatever people are putting out there. And I want to believe it was a considered view and before that decision was made. I think it's a good thing that he's a former governor. That's what we need to remember. And perhaps it's a plus now, given the crisis that we are facing, that this is somebody who understands, having been in the front seat or the driving seat of running a devolved unit, and one that is marginalized for that matter. So I would expect that as a former governor, he understands the responsibility that he's faced with, not just when it comes to devolution, of course, but allocation of resources, because everything you know, starts with the Treasury. How the planning is done, what the budgets that are presented to Parliament by the Treasury, And just fiscal responsibility as a country starts there. And if we start on the wrong foot, or if we don't give the proper and clear direction that we're taking as a country, then we are going to get lost. So for me, it's a good thing that he's fresh of breath, breath of fresh air, and that we expect that he will deliver, you know, in fidelity to the Constitution, because I think he understands what it really means.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Ambassador Mancha. He himself is an ambassador. Have you had opportunity to work with him?
I think beyond being an ambassador, what I see him is also a fellow economist, as I am, and I will take it that he's firmly grounded in his economics, besides the leadership qualities that he has demonstrated. And I think Steve made a very good point that he seems to assume his office with humility. I listened to his statement yesterday. He's one of the person who says, I didn't deserve it. And I think this is one of the qualities that we should see of a leader. Many of the leaders claw their way up to leadership. They destroy others in order to get to the top. But good leaders sometimes are pushed up or pulled from above because of what people would have noticed. And I would imagine the president, in appointing him, he has used this network to really scrutinize who he is. And so the first thing I want to do is, first of all, to wish him well in this very tough job, because if you have been in an area where you control finance, it's a very tough job, and especially in days of shortages and the rest. And I think Maria's brought in a very good point that, look, the processes of treasury is where the foundations are laid, particularly for budget processing. How are you planning? How are you doing this? I mean, one of the tenets of the Constitution is to allow participation of the people. And you can see there is an aspect that was not properly done in this respect. And I think he should take good advice, since he knows now the issues of devolution, to ensure that the process, the foundations of budget making is transparent, is well done, and of course, you are not going to be able to satisfy the needs, and especially when you have all these gaps and leakages. And what he needs now to do is, as I think Steve said very well, play fidelity to the Constitution.
Okay. Alamin, I'm afraid to ask you this question because you're not a political analyst, but you're welcome to say you're not comfortable answering it. But, you know, the reason it came as a surprise to me was because, you know, we had this idea of President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto sort of divided the cabinet appointments between themselves, and, you know, everybody had their person. That mtu wetu, you know, kind of thing. So since Henry Rotich is from a certain part of Kenya, we expect that somebody from the same part of Kenya would have been appointed to that post, you know, to keep the well, let me just call it, those are political considerations, yeah, that some of us imagined would take place. Is that also part of the reason that it came as a surprise to you, Alamin?
If I remember well, Henry Rotich himself came into the treasury not by dint of him being from the Kalenjin community, if we make it so blunt. It was actually an Uhuru appointee. It was not a Ruto appointee, if we are very clear about that. So for me, I would have still expected that the treasury was the president's patch. And therefore it's for him to get an appointee who comes from his corner, you know, if we're talking about the politics. And I didn't expect that the other camp would carry sway when it came to the appointment. Therefore, if I see Uhuru as coming from the president's corner rather than the deputy president's corner.
No, but following his arraignment, you still hear a bit of that Mtuwetu narrative. You know, a person is being persecuted.
Yes.
And you know, of course, as has become typical on the Kenyan landscape. Now, we tend to tie every decision to the 2022 politics. You know, they're trying to stand in the way of William Ruto's presidential ambitions.
Are we really going to run away from that in our politics currently? This is, I think it's a fact that whatever appointment is going to be made, there's still going to be an eye, small or large one, on 2022.
Okay. Something else that happened yesterday in the dialogue between, it appeared as though President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto were talking to one another from the podium. And, we had President Uhuru Kenyatta saying, let me just find that particular headline. It should be on the Star's front page. And he said, I don't care who will succeed me. And then it goes on to say, DP William Ruto pledges loyalty to the head of state, but reminds him of the promises they made together as Jubilee leaders in 2013. Steve, it's not the first time we've had the president say this.
Yeah.
Why? What do you read
Well, I mean,
into that statement?
the natural reaction here, Kenyan politics is organized around interest. It's about interest formation. Whose interest ascend to power, he assembled those who get to power, help him get to power, sit in power, he doesn't really care power, he doesn't really care much, but I think what Ruto is getting wrong is this. There's value, if you like, playing cool. Don't be overly aggressive. At the end of the day, this is the president. Even if he's destroying is the serving. He carries the burden of responsibility governing this country. It's not you as the deputy. If he says, I'm consolidating my legacy, you have to give him space. And if Uhuru Kenyatta is going to do it, he will do it. Not because of the external, because he will endorse because he thinks strategic to his presidency interest. You get. So he will do it. If he doesn't matter the kind of pressure Ruto puts on him about the 2013 deal. Everybody knows in this country is well entrenched. Even this G7, that had Kalonzo himself, and many other fellows there. Even at one point it was Mudavadi, and then now the haters shifted, ended up with Uhuru. Now we ended up with Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, Kanu, and all that. I think what I find distasteful, totally unacceptable, William tries to deepen the crisis of governance just because he wants to be president. At a personal level, I really have to be president. I know how it exercises my mandate at the battle of exercise my mandate at the battle of the rest. I will leave the rest can be determined by other. The outcome is communicated as it were, accepted as it were. How we constrain the president office holder at that time. So this is really discouraging to make William give some political, because they are supporters of who feel that he has not done much in the first term, and because he has the handshake, and there's a lot of political stability, be it only for this term that he needs to consolidate the magic can achieve something, be able to achieve something that he can. When he sits 10 years later after leaving office, he can say he forms part of my legacy. But if you're antagonized, I've said before, careful reading of the Constitution permits the president to dispense with the presidency. Let us not fail. The president is truly cornered. He cannot excuse himself from the deputy president. This case nominated. You are just nominated. Someone who says, how much money have been running it? For whatever reason, whether you can point it for strategic position, for whatever reason, the pathway to elective nomination is through nomination and running as an independent candidate. In which case you need to collect some. So the deputy president, what I'm saying is this goes slow. He needs to go slow. Just like the new CS some humility. Let him paddle heavily the waters. But on the surface, let him stay calm. I don't think that the massive benefit will work and benefit in that probably. And that probably is what will make it easy Uhuru Kenyatta to abandon now the president to abandon. Because he'll only say, you're sabotaging my term. I'm trying to finish my term. And some legacy. There's no a decent excuse for Uhuru to offload Ruto if he continues like that.
Okay, So, Barrow is weighing on that. You want to weigh in on that before you transition to the lectern?
I think what we need to remember is that the president has been consistent, and he has said this continuously that Kenya has to deliver for Kenyans, and asked that we focus on delivery. And I agree because the cycle of politics seems to be 24/7. That immediately we finish a very tough election was even repeated. That was even the hit on the economy, and then we are back talking about succession. At the end of the day, you're there at the behest of this Mwananchi who didn't put you there so that you can start talking about your future plans. I mean, that's the case of Mwananchi. So I think we need to be true to ourselves in terms of focusing on get elected and they get elected to deliver. When the time comes for election, that will happen. And like Steve rightly said, getting to opposition, it's not an appointed election. It's an election. People will choose whether to vote for you or not vote for you. So I think let's focus on the Mwananchi, delivering to the Mwananchi.
Before I comment on this very aspect, the other question you asked about this aspect of Mutuyeta, everyone must be paid, then it must be assessed by A plus. This is really what I want to say. Understand what it means to campaign, and I commend them because that's how you train people. I've seen in some other fora where you train, for instance, at schools, you should have model debates where people learn to be president or make a model of the UN so that people start to understand what happens in those rooms. And I think that's a very good, and I think we should commend the president here. But and you could see they were talking at each other. This is again not in very good taste, because I think the president has said time and again that, look, let's now focus on the big four. And beyond that, he has also taken up another project which he says, let me live a united Kenya. But I can see people who, and I think Maria has made it very clear, who still want boardroom deals to say, well, this is who takes this position. Where's Wanjiku? Where is Mara? Where is everybody else? I mean, are we being taken for granted that the election should be a done deal? That we come 22, we know who the president is? That shouldn't be the case.
Yes.
You implement, and then come back and sell to us what you've done.
But in all fairness to William Ruto, we did hear President Uhuru Kenyatta get up when they were campaigning and say he'll finish his 10 years, and the next 10 years, William Ruto will take it. So is it now fair for him to to just not outrightly endorse the guy and let the matter settle?
You see, if William Ruto, if the president were to, let's say, express support at this stage, it's very early in the political campaign. In fact, the Elections Act and the Election Campaign Finance Act stipulates the timelines for election campaign to be about 12 months the election. You see, if the president were to express support for Ruto at this particular point, that would have a destabilizing effect. Because it now means that the lines are drawn again. And now the political realignments will begin. So, I mean, it's a common sense position that, listen, the president just wants to do his work and finish his term. At least let's move this conversation on 2022 to there about 2021 December, when I have less than 8 months to go. You know, when the campaigns have started. Because right now, I'm just like, I'll be a temporary incumbent, you know, holding in power in preparation for the next person. Not really achieving much, holding the country together. You can do the politics, but at this stage, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta is struggling with some legacy questions. The easiest score which is done so far is uniting the country. I am not an enthusiastic supporter of the handshake, but I also recognize it has benefit. Why I'm saying that is because, you know, the philosophy undergirding the handshake is not well explained. I hope there's still time to explain it. But the short-term benefits are evident. Everyone can see it. There's unity, there's more cohesion, there's better relation between people, between political actors, until people joke that you don't even need, there's even no opposition. The work of the opposition need not to be antagonistic in terms of governance. You just need to check. And anybody can play the role of opposition. Even us here, when we are fault-finding the government, we are playing the role of opposition. I mean, because, you see, checking the government is a shared duty. Even the Mwananchi, in terms of public party, has a responsibility. But this particular point in time, you will never see a moment like this in our history when there's political tranquility. I mean, this is the time Uhuru Kenyatta can deepen his legacy. But it is not Raila Odinga giving him headache. It is his own running mate in 2017 and 2013 that is rushing him to endorse him. Why? I mean, really, why?
There are those who argue that William Ruto is now the opposition.
If Ruto does not go slow, Kenyans will run out of patience. And when he wants Kenyans to stand with him, when he has been betrayed in terms of 2013 and 2017 commitments, when he has been betrayed by Uhuru Kenyatta, he will not have support from Kenyans, because what Kenyans will remember is a period of consistent and antagonistic political approach against the advice of the president. And people will ask him, if you antagonize the president in his last days, how much can you do when you're sitting at the top? We will go with someone else. If the president has gone with someone else, we will excuse the president. I think this is just harmful to Ruto himself. Let him go slow, let him relax. In any case, the deputy president has no significant role except to assist the president. Let him be quiet, be still, be calm. Let him borrow something from this CS, Ukuri Yatani, who is very humble in wearing power. Okay. And then maybe, just maybe, he may get there.